All right, everyone, welcome back. We're going to be talking about Spanish Google ads in 2024 now. Joining us again is our senior account manager, Andrea Ferrer, and our resident expert on all things paid media, Ali Gonzalez. She's based in Philly. Thanks for hopping on, Ali and Andrea, and Ali. A special thanks for preparing all this. I know this is probably the longest module for today. So we'll probably be going close to 30, 40 minutes on this one. And before we get started, I do want to shout out to Roberto Robledo. Let me just double check that. Yes, Roberto Robledo. Apologies if I got that name wrong. But you mentioned that you are a consumer rights attorney and you filed plenty of cases under the TCPA. Text messages are dangerous and on a mass scale, even more dangerous. Proceed with the utmost caution. Could not agree more. Consent is so huge. You have to have so much perfected in your system before you can send out these texts. Really appreciate you throwing that comment out. And actually, we'll be reaching out to you because we have a module on the TCPA and consent in the next month. So we'd love to talk to you more about that. So let's get started. So Ali, let's get started with this initial quote that you have right here. It says that Hispanic consumers are going online and they're increasingly turning to search. More than 3/4 of those surveyed said that they're using search engines on a daily basis. It's their number one online source for gathering information about a purchase, and they rely on it heavily during their research. That's massive. So let's talk about who uses search. So talk to us about who is Juana.
So let's say that I want to put this on a real case scenario. So let's pretend you are a workers' compensation law firm, or Andrea is a workers' compensation law firm, and Juana is a potential client. So what you will need to know about Juana is that Juana lives in Philly. Juana works cooking at a restaurant, and Juana broke her arm recently. So she turns to one of her coworkers, and they are like, you should find a workers' compensation lawyer. But Juana does not speak Spanish. So she goes to Google, and this is an actual search I did because I live there, and I use the keyword that Juana might use, so abogado de compensación laboral, that's a workers' compensation lawyer, and there are no ads in Spanish for Juana. So that might deter Juana for finding a lawyer because she might be like, how can I communicate with my lawyer? How can I explain my case? I don't speak English. So she might drop the case, and that's why it's also important to be in social media. That's my model for tomorrow, so you should come. But so also, if you're a workers' compensation via law firm in Philly, this is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, this says Google saying more than 3/4 of Hispanics are looking for legal help online, and you literally just pulled up a search where literally no one in Philly is advertising in Spanish for work comp. That is bonkers. Okay, go ahead.
And sad.
Yeah. So let's say you're an attorney in Philly and you see that opportunity. You see, oh, wait, maybe I can be ranked in Spanish for work comp attorneys. Like, how do you find your keywords?
So you are an attorney in Philly. You don't speak Spanish. You are an English law firm. So you are like, how could I know what Juan is going to search? Yeah. That's the beauty of this era. You can use AI. So you can turn to ChatGPT and you can write your own prompt. So there are main key things that you need to tell ChatGPT. First, that you will be using these keywords in Google Ads, that it will be for the Hispanic audience, that you are a workers' compensation law firm, if you take or do not take any other type of cases, and specify how many keywords you want them. So if this is you managing your own campaign, 25 to 30 keywords, it's perfect for you. That's manageable. So you type that, and ChatGPT will give you a list of keywords.
Okay, so wait. So you're saying if I don't speak Spanish and I want a list of keywords that I could put on a self-serve Google campaign that I could start in an hour, I don't even need to speak Spanish. I just have GPT give me the keywords to upload into a Google campaign.
You don't need to speak Spanish, but I hope you have a intake that can speak Spanish.
Okay.
Also, because you will need to talk to Juana. But
Got it.
so when ChatGPT gives you the keywords, you just give those keywords to your intake or someone in your office that speaks Spanish, because they will provide very good keywords, very highly relevant, but there will be some keywords that are close enough that might yield irrelevant leads. For example, in this one, the 11, it says abogado de derechos laborales. So that's it's
Workers'
for an
rights.
employment lawyer. Yeah. Absolutely. So just take the without and just use the keywords that are more relevant.
So get someone who knows Spanish, audit the list that GPT will spit out in like a second, and then just keep the ones that are relevant to your practice area. All right, cool. So then what do we do with the keywords?
This is how they will look on your Google Ads campaign. So this is your first step. Your second step, it will be how, your keywords are there. Juana typed tuve un accidente en el trabajo. What is Juana going to see? That's what we missed on the early slide. So you need to create your ad. So each ad can have 15 headlines and 4 descriptions. These are 15 examples. And you can use your location. So in this one, abogado, the workers' compensation in Philly. You can even use Spanglish. Workers' compensation, it's a term that Hispanics tend to know. So you can mix a little bit of Spanglish there. And you can put where you are so that Juana knows that you are in Philly, you're speaking Spanish. It's perfect.
I mean, I think you, hold on, I want to go back to that. You said use Spanglish in some of your ad copy. So that's like mixing English and Spanish into, how often are you doing this right now on our active ad campaigns?
So for the past year, we have been creating a Spanish-only campaign and a Spanglish as well.
Wow.
Because there are like second generation Hispanics that use a lot of that Spanglish, and they see the ads and they feel like super identified. So
yeah, that's big. So I think what you're tapping into is like something that a lot of legal professionals assume in the Hispanic market is that it's Spanish only. And all of us are here on this call. We're all Hispanic and we're all speaking English, but we can also speak Spanish. And sometimes we do both. I especially do both with my mom, so I mix it up. This is a reality of the market. The market isn't just a monolith. It's not just Spanish dominant speakers and English dominant speakers. It's folks that also do both. So if your ads reflect how people talk, like using Spanglish as Ali's presented, you're more likely to get some opt-in or you gain to benefit from conversions by just being a little more culturally relevant. That's a big one. Yeah.
And then on your descriptions, try to tell them why like what sets you apart. If you have like free consultations, what are your latest results? Tell them that you are doing this for the Hispanic community. Like even if the ad is in Spanish, tell them that you want to specialize on Hispanics. And also use ad extensions. Ad extensions are like a little pieces of information you can add to your ad. These are 3 examples. So you can add a phone number so that they can call you from the ad, call outs that are like things that make you, and structured snippets are like your services. So if you are a PI law firm, you can put that you take like dog bites, slip and falls, MBAs, trucks, Ubers, not Uber, but you can't use that term, but you can put rideshare.
Yeah, so and I also want to address something here, that this might be a little over the heads of some of our viewers here that have never potentially run these campaigns, and that's okay. Again, these resources are meant to give you an insight on the tactics that are truly required, all the steps really required to run a viable campaign. So when we give out these talking points to you over email, share them with your marketing professionals, share them with anyone that's running your marketing. Please leverage all the insights, leverage all the mistakes we've made over the years and all the wins that we have now through data. We recognize that this may not be super easy, but these are the steps required to be a viable competitor in Spanish. So just take that note with what you will, but we recognize that this isn't entry level, and this is really meant for marketing professionals that you're already working with.
I wanted to use 5 examples here. So the top 3 are mobile examples, and the down are like desktop. 98% of your traffic for Hispanic campaigns will come from mobile, but just have it there for computers, like just in case. So you can see on the ads how they have the phone number. That's the ad extension. And these are real combinations that were made with the headlines and descriptions that will be made by Google. Google will decide which combination triggers most conversions or more leads. And also it will do it based on the keyword that, in this case, Juana wrote.
Got it. So once they click, so if they're on a mobile and they click llamar al 877 or llamar al 877-436, they click that number on their mobile, that's going to be a direct link from that Google ad to the attorney's office. Right?
Yes, they are not going to a website or a landing page if they click there.
Now, for those that are on their desktop, or for those that are on their mobile being served an ad where they can click a link, they're going to go to, ideally, a dedicated landing page that is specific to their area of their interest. So for instance, this is a PI attorney. Ideally, this PI attorney only wants people seeing this landing page if it came from Google ads that had anything to do with motor vehicle accidents or slip and falls or rideshare incidents. And Ali, last year we released, I think, 400 landing pages. I think that was the data, something like that. So we have a lot of data on like what is the right order of landing pages, of information to get the most conversions. So I think this is our highest performing one in our entire portfolio. So let's talk about all the sections here that make it a conversion powerhouse.
Yeah, so it has 6. So the first one is the header. So it will tell immediately who you are, what you do, and why you. So you can see his face super big. He's also kind of famous, so they kind of recognize him. But the text, the copy, it says that they will give a compensation. So compensation is huge. That's what people want, truly. So they can see it, and then we tell them what type of cases you're taking on the copy. Then the latest results. So they want to see how much compensation others have gotten, because they want to get it as well.
Right.
So they want to dream that can be them. So that's the second most important one. Then case types, try to use as little text as possible. So in this case, we use icons, so they don't even have to read it, they can see it.
Right.
And then a form, because you want them to contact you. Try to use just 5 fields: name, phone number, email, case details. A secondary phone number for forms is also very valuable. Also, pro tip, us Hispanics are super huge on WhatsApp. So if you are having struggles finding forms, try to reach them through WhatsApp. It's probably that they will respond there.
Yeah, I want to mention another thing about forms. The first is, you're asking for 5 fields here. Yeah, that's probably the maximum that you should be putting on any online collateral. The more that you ask, the more information that you ask for from a consumer, the less likely it is that you're going to get more people through that part of the funnel. So less is actually more. You want to ask as little as possible. We also see a lot of competitors put forms at the very top of, let's call this the who you are section, the hero section here. We actually actively tell attorneys not to do this, because we know that if someone scrolls down a landing page, especially if that form is at the bottom of a landing page, and they fill it out, that is someone who just went through that entire experience, likely read all that copy, filled out all that information, that is a prospective client, a potential client that is super qualified. They're educated on your service, on your brand, on your value proposition, on your process, on the case types, and then they fill everything out at the very bottom. That suggests someone has a lot of intent. So phone calls are great, but don't forget that the form will oftentimes attract the most qualified person, especially the lower you position that form. And again, we released 400 landing pages last year, probably 70% of that the prior year, and just compounds year over year. But that behavior has held. As much as you want phone calls, you also want to make sure that you have forms that generally qualify, that rather bring in really qualified traffic. So, let's talk about the team and reviews, Ali.
Okay, so for your team, if you have like Hispanic intake or something, just put them there so that they can see that you have someone that looks like them also there,
Right.
social pictures. And reviews, try to use your real Google or Facebook reviews so that if they search for them, they can actually find them. And try to use different type of cases that you have great reviews of. And that's it, that you don't need anything more. You can see this landing page has 4 calls to action. So it has 3 click to call buttons and 1 form. And that's it.
It's interesting because we also tried this Google reviews widget on some performing landers, and it's done really well. So if you actually have done a good job in collecting reviews and you add the Google review widget, that actually will boost your conversions on page landers. So highly recommended to leverage whatever it takes, whatever resources and tools there are to give your office more credibility, especially to people, consumers that don't know who you are. So generally speaking, when I hear landing pages, especially like 10 years ago, you used to need like a web designer and a developer and an IT person. So what are the resources that you can use now?
Right now, we use Lead Pages and Unbounce. And there are also 2 other very good resources that's called ConvertKit and Instapage.
Yeah.
But we try to go to Lead Pages and Unbounce because they have a lot of integrations. The layouts are super beautiful, so it's easily just change the background, put your picture, change the copy, and you can have a highly converting landing page in 20 minutes. Maybe.
Yeah, and these services, they cost anywhere from $60 a month all the way up to a few $100s a month, depending on how many pages you're managing. But generally speaking, it's more of a preference. I talk to agency owners all the time. Some of them love Instapage. Some of them love ClickFunnels. And it's all mostly preference. They generally have the same features, comparable pricing structures. It's really up to you. But like what you're really trying to get from these landing page services is convenience. They're not going to build you anything, but they will provide you nearly ready to publish landing pages that you just need to customize to your business.
Yes. Also, for example, for PI lawyers, we try to do different landing pages depending on the service. So we have a landing page just for ride shares, and another for dog bites, and one for sleep and fall, so that they have all the information they need. They don't need to search for it, and it's exactly the keyword they used on Google to find it.
Yeah, and that's something that we will have a webinar on that. I think it's scheduled for the second quarter, but it's about specificity in landing pages. If you're a labor law attorney and you have someone Googling for help in sexual harassment, you don't want to just show them a labor law landing page. You want to show them results that you have helped people in these really traumatic situations, and you're showing case studies. Like the example that you mentioned right now, rideshare. If someone's looking for, help with their Uber or Lyft claim, or even their MTA claim, the Metro, you want to show them imagery of rideshare, imagery of a bus, common carrier, things of that nature. And so if you're paying a lot of dollars for that click, you want to give that click that you just paid for the maximum likelihood that it turns into a call. And if you send them to a landing page that's really specific to their area of law, you're more likely to win than any other attorney that's really just throwing out generic landing pages. Generic landing pages don't work anymore. The consumer wants specificity. They want customization. They want to know that when they're one click away from calling you, that you've assured them that you've done this before. So yeah, I appreciate that heads up. But we should absolutely do another module in more depth in the second quarter about that. So Juana, she's calling now. She sees the mobile ad. She calls in. Who's she calling? Who's answering?
Hopefully your Spanish intake team. So please have someone that can answer in Spanish. Have a dedicated phone number for that campaign so that immediately as it rings, you can answer in Spanish. If you have a Spanish brand that it's not, I don't know, Abogados Campeones, don't answer like Brian and Stern, blah, 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 because they will freak out and they will hang up. And that phone call costs you money, so you don't want to lose it. So try to answer in Spanish. Also, avoid phone trees. Sometimes they have like huge recordings in English that are like 10, 15 seconds, and then they start speaking in Spanish. By then, they already lost them. So,
yeah, also on a phone tree, this is a tip that we still hear all the time. We hear on phone trees, it says, if you prefer to speak to someone in Spanish, press 2.
In English.
The prompt is in English. Like, at least give the prompt in Spanish. So you're making a really good point. Have a dedicated line and have that dedicated Spanish line answered by someone who speaks Spanish and will answer in Spanish. Yeah, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see attorneys make all the time, but it's one of the easiest things to fix. It's a $2 phone number, and it's a business rule that says, hi, bilingual team member, you're going to be answering this phone in Spanish, and this is the number in which you only answer in Spanish. That is so important here. So, like, what tools do you use to route calls and to pick phone numbers?
So we use call tracking metrics and occasionally CallRail, and there is also CloudTalk. We buy a lot of phone numbers for our members. So in a regular campaign, we tend to buy between 8 and 10 phone numbers. This is a great example. So we buy, for example, 1 phone number for the landing page, 1 for the call extension. If we have 2 social media campaigns, we buy each one a phone number, 1 for your website. Text messages, they have their own. It's in this example, 1 for the community managers that answer the messages on your social media, so that you know where everyone saw that ad. So if Juana pressed call Google Ads landing, we will know she came from the landing page instead of from the call extension, and then you can make decisions about it. I wish.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
Something I want to mention is that you really need to track this, because I see a lot of attorneys rely on what the person says. And they're like, yes, I saw you on Facebook, and we see this all the time. It was actually TikTok or it was Google. Like, they don't remember. In case of older people, they think it's the same thing. So you cannot rely on what the client says. You need to actually have the data to back that up.
Yeah, there are moms that call Facebook to everything. So it could be Twitter or X now, and they will say it's Facebook. So.
Right. Yeah, no, you make a good point. So that is a let's call it an old school way of tracking. The intake person will say, oh, where'd you hear about us? And then we see the call tracker, and it's like 98% is Google, right? And we all know it's not the case. So if you assign a phone number to every entry point, you don't need to ask that to a client anymore. The phone number will tell you where that person came from. We're super, super militant about this at Abogados Now, where we attach a phone number to every asset, because you just never know where a high value case will come from. And so it's really important to track this, because it's done automatically, and you don't need to rely on the memory of someone else to tell you where they came from.
And it's not super expensive. It's $2. 0.25 for each phone number a month, so it's pretty affordable.
Got it. So
people are usually people are usually worried about, that I see in the calls, is that this is going to make it become too long. Like, they think if we have this, the numbers are like routing all the time, and that it's going to be like a 25 wait. I assure you, it's not. It still goes directly.
One of the things that I like about call tracking technology, and I think this is the 49% of running a viable ad campaign. The 51% is the GPT, the ad creative, the landing pages, the attribution. But I think the 49% is this call tracking, because every time you get a lead, as a result of this high discipline in tracking all of your channels per a phone number, you're going to get automated specificity. So like, for instance, this call on the left is Domingo Garcia in Texas. We know that this tracking number, you can see it on the bottom. It says Google Ads call extension 877. We know that this consumer called in as a result of a Google ad they saw, a mobile ad they saw. They called in, they went through the IVR, it was answered, and it became a 12.5-minute PI call. I think most people would probably be happy with the 12.5-minute phone call, and they'd probably be a lot happier knowing exactly where that call came from. So now we can tell our member, Domingo, hey, Domingo, this call extension ad associated to this particular tracking number is doing really well. You might want to redistribute your ad spend from this lower performing campaign to this one particular call extension campaign that's doing the most for you. And that's the detail. That's where the magic is. It's not the ad creative. The ad creative is super important, but as is the landing page, it's super important, but it doesn't mean anything unless you can't get that level of specificity in the tracking.
There is actually a slide called optimization where you can see more in detail, because this is the notification. Yeah, this one. So you can see the campaign, the ad group, even the ad content that person saw to make that phone call. So you can go very, very in detail about this. And then you might, if this turns into a routine client, you might want to increase the budget on that ad group or on that keyword.
Yeah, and so there's a lot to be managed here. So I want to talk a little bit about staffing. So in order to launch these Google ad campaigns, you need like a project manager, you need a marketer, you need a web developer that can manage these landing pages. Even if they're templatized, they still need to be customized. Then you need a copywriter, someone that knows your local Spanish market, local Hispanic market. So we use this example all the time. The way you advertise in South Florida is very different than you advertise in Southern California, simply as a result of the dramatically different immigrant makeup of each state. You need a local copywriter writing copy for that cohort. You need an analyst. So that could be someone that runs your campaigns or reviews the work done by the one executing on those campaigns. And lastly, you need someone on intake who is an ally to the marketer. You want that marketer working closely with the intake person. Every day you should be looking at yesterday's calls and saying what calls are great, which calls weren't great, which calls are questionable, which calls were missed, why were they missed? Let's investigate that. So you need to have these 5 folks, at minimum 5 folks, to run these viable campaigns. I wouldn't recommend any legal professional to run any Google ads unless they have these folks on their team, if not really trusted contractors running this for them. It is a highly risky endeavor to do this on your own. Even though there are self-service tools that work fairly well, there is a graduation point. There's a point as to which that you're going to outgrow it's going to outgrow your capabilities. So we highly recommend having these channels, these kind of brains think about it separately, because writing copy, doing math, answering phone calls, running the project as a whole, totally different disciplines. So Ali, any final words before we wrap up here?
No, just keep in mind that your intake needs to follow up on forms, that your notifications has to be turned on, have specific phone numbers. There are a lot of resources you can use if you really want to do this. That's it.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, Ali, thank you so much for putting that together. So main takeaways, you can use GPT. to get keywords in Spanish. That's something you can do today. You can presumably do it for free. Get lead pages, probably at minimum $69 a month, and it goes up depending on how much you use that service. And use an answering service like CallRail or Call Tracking Metrics, and attribute a phone number to the ads that you're running. Again, you can do this at an entry level for a few $100 a month of ad spend, but at some point, if you get traction, you're going to want to grow and scale. And scaling comes with needing developer talent, copywriting talent, data analyst talent, and project management talent. That will present itself as you want to grow. So Andrea, Ali, thank you so much for putting this together. And we'll take another 5-minute break. We're going to come back with our final module of the day, which that's with Andrea, and it has to do with finding out if your office is ready for more Spanish-speaking clients, more Hispanic clients, and that can be in the form of office signage, office documentation. We'll get into more details in a moment. So thanks for sticking around.